welcome to this week's video. This week I decided to go back and try gouache again. I've been playing around with this on and off in a sketchbook, and I had been working on my secret project a lot lately, and once I'd finished this piece I really wanted to colour it and thought my gouache would be perfect for this. Been really inspired by spring lately and the changing of seasons. I think it's rejuvenated everything that I am pumped back into drawing all over again. So I decided to take this original line work and retrace it using my lightbox. Now the lightbox that I've got is fairly old. I don't pull it out too often because I don't tend to work on different pieces of paper, but since I wanted to keep this original line art and not go over it with any colour, I decided that pumping out the lightbox again would be fun. I've actually had this lightbox for quite a while. This was gifted to me from a friend who no longer needed it. So it still does its job. It's not the greatest lightbox in existence, but it does its job, and plus it's that elevated surface that I like so much to draw on. It's a cute box. I like it. What more can I say than that? The full list of equipment, as always, is listed down below. I'm using my Royal Langnickel, I think I'm saying that correctly, gouache, my Canson mixed media paper, because at the time I wasn't sure whether or not I wanted to just use gouache on the whole piece. I'm also using my W.H. Smith pencils for my initial sketch, and that's pretty much it. I don't use much else. I know this piece took me quite a while because I'm still quite tentative when it comes to using gouache. I get a little bit nervous about lining and colouring. I think once I get the hang of it I will get quicker, as I did with watercolours. But I find that when I'm first using a medium, or when I'm not used to a medium, I will try and work on it quite slowly. Overall, the final piece I am really happy with, but we'll get there at a later date. Some of you smart cookies have already guessed what my secret project is, and there will be more information to come at the end of this month when I've done a few more pieces, but for right now, shh, it's a secret. It's a secret. It's very noisy outside today. The birds have come out full singing, and everyone seems to be enjoying the beautiful weather we're having lately. England, beautiful weather? What the heck is this? I don't know. But right now I can see that the sky is blue, and it just makes me want to draw so much. I'm actually itching to draw even right now as I'm doing the voiceover for this video. I'm feeling heavily inspired lately, and it's a really good energy to have, and I just want to draw. So this little pixie witch, her name is Cherry, and these two little companions that she has, she's not that imaginative with names, and they're called Bumble and Buzz. They are her little companions that help her collect nectar for her potions that she makes, and she's not that tall. I would argue she's probably about 12, maybe 16 inches high, but I like to think in the Plant Witch universe there are all different races and species of all different shapes and sizes, so I'd like to think that she fits in quite easily. Maybe she would visit Marie at a later point, my Plant Witch. Since playing with gouache, I found that I am a little bit more confident now than when I first started. I'm still a little bit tentative about applying a lot of colour, and some of my application, particularly in this piece, is a little bit shaky. But I find that with gouache, because you can water it down, it can be a little bit easier. So you'll notice that I'm mixing colours in the palette there, because in particular I don't have the pastel range that I was really after. I was mixing in a lot of the titanium white because it's a slightly off white instead of the pure white. It wasn't dulling my colours as much as the pure white, because the pure white was concentrating it far too much, whereas the titanium white was giving me that off slightly yellow colour that I needed for my highlights as well. I know that you can get pastel colours, but while I'm still practicing, I'm not going to invest a heavy amount of money in more professional paints. I'm a firm believer that you don't need the most expensive art supplies to do art. I do think you should invest once you start getting better at a particular medium. Like, I've done watercolours for quite a while now, and I really have loved my Winsor & Newton Cotton watercolours for quite a long time, and have been investing in the professional range and also investing in newer paints, just because I know that once you have gotten used to a medium, you really should invest in the art supplies. It's like if you were doing digital art, you would invest in the equipment, you invest in the stuff that you're doing, because it will, like, sometimes not necessarily like the newer art supplies are going to be better, it just might perform a little bit better. Now, probably the biggest thing I struggled with was trying to work out what colours I wanted. I knew I wanted a very pastel range overall, but I didn't necessarily want it all to be pastel colours. Now, the problem is when you are working with colour palettes, is trying to think of like what range you are going for. With this piece in particular, I knew I wanted a lot of pastel range colours in there, but I didn't want it to be like all just pale in comparison. So I tried to mix in some warmer colours in there to balance out the shadows. In particular, I end up using purple for the deepest shadows, like quite a deep purple for the deepest shadows, and for the lighter shadows I try to use like I said, the titanium white mixed in with a little bit of yellow, just to try and get that contrast a little bit more. I'm still learning, and I feel like I've learned a lot, but there's just still much to learn. It's the great thing about art, you are consistently learning and consistently trying out new things. So with her little outfit, I wanted her to have like a cherry blossom skirt and top, with a little belt in the center. I imagine that she changes her dress to do with the seasons, and when it comes to winter, because there's not many plants around, she doesn't exactly want to wear holly leaves. She will work in a greenhouse, so that she doesn't necessarily have to, like, for example, sunflowers only come with certain seasons, and she does collect certain she collects certain nectar from certain plants, and she does specialize particularly with cherry blossoms and blossom flowers, but over the seasons, as you can imagine, that does change. So I'd like to think that she would help Marie in the greenhouse during the autumn and winter periods. Now, luckily, with Marie's little greenhouse that she has, because the plants can be magically grown, some plants will be there all season round, and she will enjoy being in a big plant witch's garden. She more specialises in the gathering of materials than she does growing plants. I really like the idea of Cherry. I think she's a really cute character design, and I love the fact that her little companions are just these cute little happy faces, and they're just so fluffy. I loosely based them on the Rusty Patch bumblebees, just because I really like how fat their bodies are. I just really like chubby bumblebees. I think they're really cute. And that's been really nice to see, actually, with the new weather coming in, how all the little bugs are coming out, because I really like seeing them all come out, especially like the bees and the wasps and the flies. And it sounds really silly, but it's really nice to see like everything come back out for the newer weather. And I'm just preaching here because I'm happy that the weather's all pretty and happy again. So overall with this piece, I really did enjoy making it. If I was to go back and change a few things, the background piece in particular, it's just a simple shape because there was a lot of detail up front and a lot of detail that I was having all together. I didn't want the background element to be a distraction. I would define this as a spot illustration because it doesn't have a massive background, it doesn't have like an overly detailed background, and I would see this as a spot illustration maybe for a children's storybook. with this piece in particular, like, there is a few mistakes that I did make, and it is always good to look on your mistakes and see how you can improve. In particular, there is a few areas where the paint did smudge and I wasn't able to rectify it as much. The background in particular is quite patchy. This is yet again my inexperience with gouache, and I can understand in the future where I would be able to change this. The bumblebees as well, some of the face on one of them is in particularly quite derpy, and I would probably go back and tweak that and change that, and maybe put some more detail on the wings for both her fairy design and for the bumblebees. But yet again, because there was so much detail on her as a character design and on the foreground, I didn't want too many background elements to distract from the foreground. It can be quite difficult to say stop at certain points, and with me, I tend to not be able to stop and just think detail, detail, detail. It must have detail, all this detail, and that can be quite difficult to say. So hang on a minute, we need to take a step back and just, you know, re-look back on our elements and reapply. And while Cherry may not be a main character in this story, I'd like to think her as a background character who would appear every now and again. I like to think that there's a lot of characters in this story that may not be like detrimental to the actual story's arc, but I like to think that, you know, each of them does have their own story and their own designs, and, you know, and maybe they don't have magic, maybe they don't have X, Y, and Z, but what they do have is, you know, key to who they are as a person, as a magic user, as a non-magic user. I think it's really important to think and respect of their stories in a way. I like Cherry. I like Cherry's design a lot. I just like this idea of having two bumbly companions, and she's very smiley and happy, and maybe a little bit ditzy. I don't know. What kind of characteristics do you think that Cherry has, and her little two familiars Bumble and Buzz? If you had a plant witch character, what kind of character would they be? I think it's really fascinating that you all have had these amazing ideas for this story and some amazing character designs. You always seem to wow me and amaze me every time you tag me in what work you've done. It's just phenomenal, and thank you so much for following me and, you know, these crazy ideas I have for a crazy world that I'm building. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and if you're new, maybe subscribe to my channel. Hope you've enjoyed my adventures with gouache as well. It's a very interesting learning curve. Stay tuned if you wish to for future video content. But as always, folks, stay creative.